On August 23, 2023, the results of the 8-year study of the remains of the ape Anadolovius turcia, 7 million years old, were published in the Communication Biology magazine. It was found in Turkey, and it suddenly turned out that biologically this is the most real ancestor of man, that is, the prohuman and prohuman. In fact, it smells of a sensation that turns our understanding of human evolution. And this is just one of the loud discoveries of this year's archaeology, and we will talk about all of them in the next couple of minutes. To begin with, let's continue the story of Anadolovius turcia. This is a monkey the size of a large chimpanzee and weighing 50 to 60 kilograms. Its remains were found in 2015 on the Çanakkale site, not far from the Turkish city of Kankeri. Unfortunately, there is no infinity left, and scientists only have their jaws and teeth. But this is enough to understand the size of the animal, its gastronomic habits and body structure. The only problem is that in Turkey, with archaeology as a science, there is a small problem. Scientists in this country love to exaggerate the value of their findings to release articles of the level the first life on Earth was born in Turkey. Therefore, it took a long time to find a full-fledged confirmation. During this time, the international team of scientists from Canada, the Netherlands, and Turkey, as it is supposed to be, studied the remains of the monkey, and it was revealed that Anadolovius turcia is indeed a member of the evolutionary tree, which later led to the appearance of chimpanzee, bonobo, gorilla, and human. The age at 8.7 million years old was also confirmed. And this is very interesting, because in Africa, the chelanthropes and other gominids of our younger branch, the oldest of them, maximum 7 to 8 million years. The general theory of human origin, if it does not forbid the guys, like Anadolovius, the Turk, to walk from Africa so far, then it definitely does not allow them to return to Africa. This allows another, at the moment, positional theory. Its supporters claim that a modern person really came out of Africa in Eurasia, but the ancestors of those guys who left Africa came to it from Eurasia in their time. And Anadolovius turcia is not the only evidence. In Germany, the remains of the Apothecus griff were found at the age of 17 million years. In Greece, in 2017, the Greek Apothecus was found at the age of 7 million years. In general, there were many calls. Having received a copy of the new Anadolovius turcia, supporters of the theory of human origin in Europe became even louder. At the moment, science calls the humankind's cradle Africa. Maestro Stanislav Trabashevsky, for example, believes that all European hominids, similar to human ancestors, have died in Europe, and we are leading our way only from African ones. However, 2023 may become a turning point, if the Turkish monkey will pass several more stages of testing. The next important discovery of this year logically continues the dispute of human origin, because Chinese scientists claim that they found remains that are more similar to Homo sapiens, only in China and 300 years old. This is also a claim to a sensation, because 300,000 years ago, according to official science, Homo sapiens had just begun to form as a species in Africa. And here, look, the remains of a ready-made human on the other side of the planet, more precisely, in Hualongdong in the east of China. In the case of the Turkish monkey, scientists had only one jaw, but according to the research published in the Journal of Human Evolution, it is enough to say that the hominid brought into being the signs of both the more ancient Homo erectus and the more progressive Homo sapiens. Simply speaking, it is about the hybrid and transitional stage of evolution, which makes the situation easier, because the African theory of the origin of Homo is again cracking in the seams. In general, the ideal candidate for the role of mysterious finds could be Denisovets. For the remains of these people, archaeologists are ready to sell their souls, and that in appearance, that in time frames. Everything seems to fit, but according to the researchers, the found skeleton is definitely not Denisovets, which means that we are either waiting for a stunning discovery or an error, the probability of which, however, is quite large, because Chinese archaeologists are not very different from Turkish, and they also sleep and see themselves as discoverers of the most ancient Chinese planet. Let's move on to more obvious findings. Perhaps the most epic of them was the discovery of the ancient city of Luxor in Egypt. Do not confuse it with the Luxor Temple, which has long been known and attracts millions of tourists. Luxor is a modern 500,000 city in Egypt. A couple of thousand years ago, the Greeks called it the Fives. A couple of thousand years ago, ancient Egyptians called it Asit. There were many temples and interesting buildings, one of which is the Luxor Temple that survived to this day. In 2021, near the Luxor, they found a huge, buried city. It is often called golden in historical chronicles, and was considered the El Dorado of the Egyptian Gulf. Even though there was no gold in the many luxury found, the city still has a beautiful look. The Egyptian Ministry of Culture calls the find the most epic since the tomb of Tutankhamun in 1922. And what about the year 2023? This year in Luxor and Dakuchi, the settlement of the Roman era was found, and not just in the city, but right next to the Temple of Luxor, where tourists are now. According to Dr. Mustafa Vaziri, no one looked for the city at all. The team just fortified the territory next to the temple, and suddenly found a huge settlement of the 2 to 3 century AD. Judging by the two houses, it is already Roman architecture, built as a residence of the administration of the region. The fortresses for legionaries were built next to it, and God knows how many buildings there are. This is the science of archaeology. For years, tourists trampled the land under which, as it turned out, there is the same archaeological landmark. Well, we're going to Scandinavia. It's traditionally believed that the north of Norway was inhabited by two waves. About 12,000 years ago, the Ice Age has retreated and the ice from Norway has gone. After 1,000 years, the guys from modern Spain and Portugal were pulled up there. And after 1,000 years, from the east, from modern Russia, Bulgaria and almost from Turkey. But the find of 2023 slightly changed the hierarchy in the Trendy Lag district. In the town of Vignore, they found a chemical weapon that does not match the one that was made by the people from the south of Europe. They are more like the works of the ancient Russians who came from the east. Here is the highlight of the age of the settlement found about 300 years ago. In April of this year, on the site of the ancient city of Berenice, on the coast of the Red Sea, scientists from Poland and the USA discovered a 2,000-year-old Buddha statue. To be more precise, a little less, they made a Buddha somewhere in the 2nd century AD. As scientists from the Egyptian Alexandria say, for our regular viewers, the opening of the world picture will not be cancelled. But people who are less interested in the history of Rome will be surprised. After all, the Red Sea was Roman then, including Alexandria, the nearest settlement, where Buddhism was preached in the 2nd century AD, is 5,000 kilometers from the location of the statuette in a straight line. Where the hell did the Buddha come from at such a difficult time in pagan Rome? Yes, in general, from India, with which the Roman Empire had an incredibly busy trade route, including the sea. Sources mention hundreds of ships that plied between the states every year. So he lay down on one of them? Or was it made by the Romans as a gift? For us personally, there is nothing surprising in this news. But most of the media are shocked by such a connection between two distant states in such ancient times. Therefore, we decided to include the statuette in the issue. How can this not include an Egyptian mummy on duty? And what else? Zahi Hawass, the head of the team of archaeologists, this year found a mummy, which is probably the oldest preserved. It was not far from the Sak necropolis, where the sarcophagus of a man named Hekashups was found at the bottom of a 15-meter tunnel. And he lived not so much, for 300 years ago. The remains belong to the 5th and 6th dynasties of the Egyptian pharaohs. They ruled in the 26th and 22nd centuries BC. Together with Gekashepes, they found the sarcophagus of an official named Maria, who worked in the pharaoh's palace, as well as Humjed, a priestess of the Yunus pyramid complex. But this is a unique tomb of Gekashepes. It was completely sealed and even covered with golden leaves, in which the Egyptians wrapped the dead more than 4,000 years ago. And secondly, Hekashups was not a representative of knowledge. What is remarkable in itself, it turns out that one of the most preserved mummies in history belongs to an ordinary person. Do you still think that in ancient Egypt there were only pharaohs and slaves? If so, let's remind you that even the legendary pyramids, with a 99% probability, were not built by slaves. In 2013, a village for watchmen with all living conditions was found nearby. Well, this year a study of the chemical analysis of the earth was published. In the samples extracted from the stone pyramid, Cyadest and other traces of plants that bloom on the banks of the Nile River were found, which allows us to say with confidence that during the construction of the pyramid, one of the rivers flowed right next to them, and, accordingly, no gigazone was required for transportation for tens of kilometers. We'll probably end there, but this is not all that is remembered in the archaeology of 2023. If you want to continue, let me know in the comments. Well, that's all for now. See you soon.